The Canadian Bitcoiners podcast is just two guys and maybe a guest or two discussing Bitcoin, Bitcoin equities, and the related macroeconomic space. It's not meant to be financial advice, so please, if you're doing any investing after listening to our program, do your own research, do your own due diligence, and understand that any money you invest can be lost. The show is meant for entertainment purposes only, and we hope you enjoy the program.
50 minutes and 7 seconds. I love it. Okay. There's tons of notable stories.
There is a lot.
I saw a boatload just today. I saw like 6 of them. I thought, there's no way we're going to be able to hit all this. Well, who knows? Let's see. We got to bring in the PTI. We got to bring in the PTI side panel here. Put it over here.
That'd be awesome.
30 seconds at a time. Who wants to be reality? We'll have a contest. Who wants to be stat boy for the show?
That's actually it. We should do that. Let's look into that. Sure. Chicago story. Well, we always got to do a nice CBP story. Chicago story. Yeah. Well, this will be very quick, though. I'm not going to dive deep into this because last week I mentioned that Chicago is one of the larger cities in the United States that has a debt load that's unsustainable, right? Mm-hmm. Like that the revenue coming in is really not able to support all the expenses they have. So I've learned this past week that the property taxes that Chicago collects, I believe this is the majority of the revenue that any city collects, right? Is from property taxes. I know they have user fees and shit like that, but property taxes is the biggest slice of the pie. Either way, 80% of all property taxes are earmarked to go to pay pensions, just pensions. So, like if you have to pave a road or you have to pay for something else, like the salary of the police or the fire, like all this shit, like they don't have money, right? Like property taxes too. Like it's not like it's been stagnant. Even with all this, property taxes have been skyrocketing. The median property tax bill has gone up around 70% from 2022 to 2023. So that's a significant jump.
Has gone up what percent?
70%.
70 in a year?
A year. So in 2022 to 2023. Some are, like if you look at some of the neighborhoods, are well over 100%. Well over it. So
they've doubled the property tax in some places.
In some places, sure.
Shit.
So, like the city I'm looking at with all this, do you think makeup is like it doesn't just come from the heavens? It's not free.
This guy was just on my Twitter feed before the show too. Anyway, continue. I'll find that story. We'll do it together.
Well, I just wanted to say that really, sadly, this city is starving for cash. They're cash strapped. And they had an issue not too long ago. We talked, I think last year, there was a grocery store chain that they closed up and it was underserving the community. So the Chicago decided they're going to spin up their own grocery store. So all this is going to be coming at a cost, right? They just don't have the money to make ends meet. And what are they going to do? Detroit declared bankruptcy. Did they not? Like about a decade ago? Like,
yeah, I think so.
Chicago do the same thing? Like, I don't know, man. So what are you got something you got to add?
Doesn't bode well for the reparations purse, does it?
Maybe the state is going to foot the bill on that? I don't know.
Lori Lightfoot got out just in time. Eh? She lost that election. This guy was also blaming the, inordinate, actually, unfortunately, very ordinate number of young Black people being killed in Chicago on, I think, Richard Nixon about an hour ago at a press conference. So
wait, what happened? It's like a street or something, or a school?
No. There's a bunch of shootings in Chicago over the weekend, as usual. I mean, we could do a Chicago shooting hour every week if we wanted to on the show. We don't because loss of life is not to be taken lightly. But he was saying that he blames it on some president from 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
No, this is before I was born.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it wasn't Nixon. I forget exactly who. That's why I'm kind of parsing my words here. But
okay.
Yeah.
This is like what the fuck happened in 1971 moment.
I mean, this guy's not a serious guy, like at what point, Len, again, like,
do you remember if you call the police, call 911, you have a 50-50 chance?
No one might show up. This is another thing, right? If you vote for a mayor, you get 50-50 chance the guy has any brain in his head. So, sort of the same odds as the fire department and police chief, but there's not much else you can say. Like, is this guy stupid or is he lying? That's the question you have to ask yourself about a lot of things that are uttered by modern politicians, unfortunately. And it seems to me like some of these, third world cities just haven't figured that out yet. They just keep electing these nincompoops over and over and over again. And, what can you say? You go from Lightfoot to this guy. How about looking at someone who's not like obsessed with blaming everything on other people, obsessed with giving free money away, obsessed with villainizing corporations in favor of, communist food banks, basically. Try something else, give it a shot. You might like it. I don't know. The water's pretty warm. I would say it might be time to dip your toe in if you're a Chicago voter.
They did have a number of years of watching Michael Jordan, so things were much better 35 years ago, and now it's not so good.
A lot more income in that city when Jordan was there.
Yeah. The craps tables were
they're buzzing. Same with the golf courses. They were buzzing over there.
Let's go to California. We can't do a show without talking about that. We'll go to the Bay Area. That's what seemed to me my favorite. So those people that are delivering inventory to convenience stores, shit like bags of chip, vanilla Coke, or whatever, they are constantly under threat over there because it's being reported that they are now being escorted by fucking armed guards to fucking deliver inventory.
At least it's not the Secret Service. Secret Service gets knocked over by a common thief. So,
like, how fucking this is like third world bullshit, right? Like,
obviously, shithole city, man. A wise man once said that, and he was criticized, very incessantly, and he's been proven right, I think, in a lot of ways. Right?
Think about it. Silicon Valley's there. You have companies kind of close to Apple and Google and Meta.
Apple just built or was building during COVID, and I think stopped, and now is building again. As I drop my football here, a huge campus in Texas, 15,000 people. They're moving out of California. They may not be saying it, but California is no longer a place where people do business. It's a place where people do fentanyl and shit on the street and piss on restaurant goers and steal from you at tax rates that are, akin to something you might see on The Sopranos. And, people are starting to figure this out, including guys who have to stock convenience store shelves. What else can you say about this?
I want to know what company's doing it.
Yeah, me too.
I want to go long in that company because they're going to have business for decades to come. And in fact, I don't think they're going to be slowing down operations.
Isn't the other funny thing here, Len, that in a state that's so anti-gun, they realize that they have to have guns to protect the chips and cola. Isn't that something? These people are so dumb. They're all so fucking stupid. I can't stand any of them.
They're anti-oil too, but in the city of Los Angeles, there's oil derricks within the city, and they're disguised well. So they're sitting on a lot of oil, and they're extracting it, but still they vilify oil as well.
They can't keep up with their tax regime. That's another state that wanted to do reparations. Another state that wants to pay down student debts or whatever. Like, these guys are addicted to giving money away because it's the only policy position they know wins them votes. They don't have anything between their ears to come up with something that's innovative or progressive in the real sense of the word, not the political sense of the word, to drive voters and to drive business investment and to drive all these things that really make an economy go. So they just give money away. And when you give money away, you find out pretty quickly that, as I think Thatcher once said, right, it doesn't work because you run out of other people's money to spend. They might be there now. I think, they're getting closer. They're certainly running out of other people's chips to eat. They have to start protecting their own chips now. With armed guards.
Beyond that, even the ones that they do sell now, there's going to be more overhead for hiring that security guard or security guards. So that cherry Coke that would cost you $1 before is now going to cost you $1.50. People are getting priced out, not just in the home.
And Newsom will get up there with his greasy ass hair, and he'll say, we're tired of corporations gouging the California, citizens. You're a moron. It's whatever. It's fun for us. Like, I don't really care about these people. I don't think they matter in the grand scheme, but these guys are hilarious. Yeah. Boomer in the chat. California is moving up the Golden Machine Gun Index 100%. There's guys riding around with guns in trucks now. That's signpost.
It's Grand Theft Auto in real life.
Signpost. Yeah.
So let's stay in the Bay Area. You ever hear of this place called the In-N-Out Burger? In-N-Out Burger. Right?
Sure.
To be honest, I've never heard of it. It's a chain that's been around for decades, right?
Popular.
Yeah. Apparently, in its 75-year history, Joey, it has never closed one of the locations. Once they expand, they plop a store down. It's until now. Unfortunately, it actually was this earlier this year, because there was an In-N-Out Burger that was operating in Oakland. And even though it was profitable, it wasn't like it was hemorrhaging money. This thing was making money, but it couldn't keep it open the operations. They had to shut it down because of a wave of car break-ins, property damage, theft, robberies, and all this were affecting customers and employees. So numbers since 2019, police have logged over 1,300 incidences in that vicinity of the restaurant. So it's a lot in just a few short years. And this includes 9 robberies, two commercial burglaries, 4 domestic violence offenses, and 1,100 car break-ins. So anyways, In-N-Out, they had enough. 1,100, yes. So I'm not sure how many, if you call the 911, I'm not sure what the percentage rate of somebody showing up. So who knows? Maybe it could be much higher.
About 550 replies.
So either way, In-N-Out decided they got the hell out of that area. They shuttered the place up. People complained, right? They liked the place. It was making money. Like, why the hell would they complain? So complain they did. But you know what? Somebody posted this week on Twitter or on X that the gas station just across the street from this old abandoned In-N-Out burger joint, because they couldn't stay it because of crime. Well, thieves ransacked this fucking gas station 4:30 in the morning, Joey. We're talking in the wee hours in the morning.
Oh my God.
Very early. 70 fucking people inside this gas station. Like the Oakland A's can't even draw 70 people to come to a fucking baseball game, and that's in the nice time. It's 4:30 in the morning. Thieves are coming up hand over fist out of the bushes, out of their tents, anywhere. They're coming in to take the bags of chips or whatever they can from this gas station. So what a fucking disaster, man.
I don't even know what to say to that. 70 people decide that the best way to spend their time in the middle of the night is to ransack a gas station. I mean, this is
Did you see the video?
I haven't seen the video, but the video.
Oh, it's fucking good. Like it's just packed inside there.
We probably can't show it on this air, but
no.
It's just like, how many more times does this have to happen before someone eventually just a gas station owner? Do you remember during the George Floyd riots, there was pictures of like Filipino, I don't want to say all Filipino, but like Asian denomination shop owners, on top of their shops with guns, like on the roof of their shop.
Oh, they're protecting their.
Get the fuck away from my store. Exactly. You don't want to see that everywhere. Like, I'd prefer not to have, sniper installments on every gas station and convenience store and every, vape store or whatever. But pretty soon you're not going to have a choice, right? You either subject yourself to the sort of whims of the fentanyl addicted, vagrant crackhead crowd, or you protect your shop. And eventually there'll be too many people who want to protect it for it not to be the norm. And then you're in a bit of a different world at that point. There's a lot of places where the danger of robbery is so high that there's armed guards out there. I think about Mexico City. I was there last year, or the year before, I forget when. Even places like Punta Cana, Playa del Carmen, another Mexican tourist area. There's a lot of places like this. And, is California going to become one of these places? Is it one of these places already? Is the only reason it's not more densely filled with people who want to defend their property because guns are difficult to own, or because the sort of state legislature is unfriendly to gun owners and gun users in this case? I don't know. But at some point, those people either protect their property or they'll leave, taking their tax contributions with them. I mean, it's funny to me that people still don't seem to understand how all this ends. It's really a testament to the sort of stupidity of the average NPC, right? These people that want to tax and take property protection rights away over and over and over again in favor of, I don't know, rehabilitation, sending psychiatrists instead of cops, using DEI cops instead of people who have proven to be, through meritocratic process, capable of doing the job. Where does it end? It ends with those places becoming rundown, empty holes where no one wants to live and no one pays taxes. And then what? Well, then you get, government run food stores and guys with machine guns roaming the streets and vagrant gangs of drug addicted, homeless people. I don't know. Or unhoused people, whatever the term is. I mean, these guys really spend more time criticizing people for saying homeless than they do fucking thinking about what caused them to be living in a tent in the first place. Truly fucking stupid. A lot of them. And I don't know what else to say besides that.
It's getting kind of late. I'm following the Biden program, so anything after 8, I'm done.
No, I make no guarantees on my competence here. Starting,
so I'm out of here, Joey, because I'm not scheduling.
How many times
stuff.
has a private neurologist been to your house in the last?
8 times in the past year. It doesn't seem out of the ordinary to me, so I'm happy with it. Either way, at 8 o'clock, we fucking shut it down. I like that Biden. That's the way we do things. He might be the president of the United States, but come 8 o'clock, wherever he is, he's fucking
who's running the show at 8 o'clock then? Like, who takes over? It's like
whoever's running it at 7:30.
Remember Nickelodeon used to run Nick at Night? You'd see like it would go from like kid-friendly cartoons to like Rocko's Modern Life and Beavis and Butthead and all these other sort of off the beaten path.
That happens in the Biden household.
They start watching the TV with swear words. They get the Baby Blue movies on starting at 8 o'clock over there.
Could you at 8 o'clock? He's had enough, guys. It's been a long day. If I put a solid 2.5 hours here, I'm
President
done.
Netanyahu, I need to actually go to bed here. I'm my faculties are leaving me.
Give me a call in the morning. I know it might be we're 12-hour difference. Where the fuck it is 9.
Did you watch the Stephanopoulos interview? Are we talking about Biden and notables here?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll talk about Mr.
Did
Biden.
you watch Stephanopoulos' interview with him? It's 22 minutes. It looks to me to be unedited.
I saw like a clip. And
it is not,
you know what?
Len, it is not very good for that campaign at all. If Stephanopoulos asked him about the debate a bunch of times, he's like, did you watch the debate afterwards? Biden looks at him. He's like, I don't know. I don't think I did.
Was I there?
Yeah.
Who was in it?
What debate? Was it good? Like, no, it was not good. You were there. And he's like, yeah, I didn't prepare.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I don't blame anybody but myself. I feel so bad for the guy. His wife's fucking psycho. But anyway, story for the time. Where do you want to?
Well, let's go to France. I think it's a good time to talk about France.
Sure.
So France.
I gotta put on my "Don't Get Fired" hat here, like I said to you earlier. But yeah,
do your best. Like I'll give you a little bit of time to think about what you're going to say, because for those who are unaware, France is undergoing an election. I think this is the second round of elections that it's taken place. So it looks like initially the right-wing Le Pen government looks like it was going to be formed, but look, there's been a change. Left-leaning coalition has formed, and they have taken first place. Or looks like they're taking first place. Nothing is yet set in stone. But either way, if they do go ahead and form government, the left-leading coalition do, there's going to be some new tax rates that are going to be implemented. They've been mentioning that as of right now, the highest tax bracket is at 177,000 euros. And anybody that's earning more than 177k euro in France is subjected to a 45% income tax. Okay. They're thinking about putting a new one of if you earn over 411,000 euros, and if you do, you're going to be subjected to 90% income taxes. So it's be progressive. So every dollar past 411,000 euros will be subjected to 90% taxes. And on top of that, they are also talking about raising the minimum wage to 14 euro per hour. Also thinking about
what is 14 euro per hour in Canadian? Like 70 grand? Like a lot. Like what?
If I had to guess, it's $19.
I don't know.
Am I wrong?
I gotta look. Let me find out. I'll find out. Keep talking.
And so this also what they want to do is they want to reverse Macron's pension reform. Remember, he was subjected to a lot of public protest because they increased the age in which you could retire and get pension. They want to reduce that to where it was previous to Macron's changes. So more taxes, 90% income tax over $411,000.
Yeah.
Higher minimum wage and reverse the pension reforms. This is going to be interesting to see if they go ahead with it. Nothing set in stone. I don't know who's going to be forming government there.
Why do the French keep voting against their own self-interest? What is it about them?
They always vote for a leftish. See, I think the guy, I was watching a video today, and a professor from France, and he was talking about the last time, and I can't believe he said it, the last time that they voted in a right-leaning government, they were pro-Nazi.
Wasn't Sarko?
That's what he's. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
So
I think Sarko was more right than. I mean, everyone was more right than these guys 10 years ago. Sarko would have been probably closer to 20 years ago at this point. But I mean, look, man, these guys are voting against their own self-interest. it's a phenomenon that you see over and over again in the modern world. All of a sudden, I think Canada does it too, to an extent. The states, some states do it.
Be very careful how you dance.
Yeah. I don't get me wrong. Like, I think there's people who don't understand the damage they do by voting for something like this tax bracket, right? Like, this is something that was floated before the election, during the election, and now after. And it's not like they didn't know about this, but the widget buying class doesn't have the mental faculty, the mental capacity to think past the next thing they buy on Amazon. And it's evidenced by voting for a policy like this. We've talked about this many times. Let's just break it down once more for the people in the back. If you take from your most productive people the money they earn, that puts them in a category where they are like, national producers of X product or service, they will take their company and leave your jurisdiction. How do I know this? Look at Canada. No company wants to do business here except for Loblaws and Robellis. That's it over here. We basically have no other services over here except for those, major telecos and the grocery chains.
And tahinis.
I guess. Although once Ali gets to a certain number, I wouldn't be surprised if he, sends out the tweet that he's closing up shop too and moving over to Texas Heenies or whatever. And so, like, the people who vote for this stuff don't really understand. They think they're voting in their own self-interest, but they're not. They think they're voting in their own self-interest because, as we've discussed on the show, they may see a short-term bump in the affordability of certain things because they get a new check in the mail or a new stimulus. But long-term, inflation comes with stimmy, and it will destroy the affordability of all the things in your life. Your salaries won't keep up because new companies are not going to come and compete for your labor. And when that happens, you end up working in public sector jobs or poor paying jobs, and the general sort of competence of the population goes down. The general availability of services and products goes down, and you wind up with a stripped out, hollowed out tax base that can't replace things that are lost, things like roads, hospitals, schools, and all those things get worse too. And over time, it's actually the people at the bottom of the food chain who vote for these policies who feel these effects the most. The people who you think you're quote unquote voting against will just leave. They'll just leave. And, I don't think there's not really much debate about this. I've heard on many shows, and like I said to you guys today, I'm wheezing a bit here. My cat must have hair in this room. Like I said to you guys today in the Bull Bitcoin chat, like the number of people who are now thinking about their exit plan, I think, is higher than ever. And I know that's the case here. I know that's the case in the US. I know that's the case in European countries as well. And for France, I'm sure it's the case there after this election, probably even before too. 90% is untenable for people who are making that much money. They're not going to agree to pay 90% of every dollar they earn. But no matter how crazy that law may seem now, in 5 years, when there's another 500,000 million immigrants in the country with, little or no resources, when there's another generation of kids who feel like they're underrepresented in politics and aren't earning the same living their parents did, when there's another set of politicians who say that it's just going to take one more tax to set things right, and we're going to make sure that you get another $500 every month, 500 euros every month, whatever, we're going to raise the minimum wage again. It just compounds. And there's no precedent for any of this stuff because we've talked about a bunch. I think we're kind of at the end stages of the fiat experiment, it seems to me. I don't know how long that'll take, but it seems to me like we're there. We don't have
5 years, according to some folks.
Yeah, exactly. The accelerationists. I don't think that this is out of the realm of possibility that you see, 2 more elections, 3 more elections like this. And actually, I know we joke on this show about the Canadian elections sometimes coming up next year, but I wouldn't put any money on Poilievre winning that election. I just think that there's too many people who will vote again against their own long-term self-interests in favor of short-term, easing their short-term burden. Because like I said before, these people are just not capable of thinking past the next widget. And we've introduced an incentive to continue voting this way because there's no hope on the horizon, thanks to, decades of poor policy from all sides of the aisle in a lot of countries that's really damaged currencies and damaged value maintenance through value maintenance through different products like Bitcoin or gold or whatever, and forced people to make otherwise not foolish, but strange decisions in terms of financial behavior just because the currency doesn't work anymore, And so like, I don't want to paint the French people as stupid, but they're not thinking long-term. The people who are voting for this stuff are not thinking long-term. And I hate to say it, if you look at the people in these videos where they're celebrating the left-wing win, I mean, do any of those people look like net producers to you? I don't know. I'm not one to judge a book by a cover all the time, but look at the videos and see what you think. And you be the judge if you think those people are net producers or not. I don't think a lot of them are, if I had to guess. I see yesterday there was, riots in the street from the quote unquote winners of the election, burnt buildings on fire. These people are not net producers. If you want to tie your carriage to that horse, go for it. But I think it's going to be to your detriment long term.
Did you see that in the US last month, the jobs number that came out? Apparently 3/4 of the jobs that were created.
Yeah, part-time.
Government jobs.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. You're right. Yeah. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah. And I don't want to go into that. So that's truly not sustainable, right? Like when you have not enough tax dollars coming in and there's going to be
print the money, you increase the tax capture, you print the money to pay people and then take the money back through tax and then call it GDP. Now you explain to me how that data is reviewed with a straight face by any economist, banker, politician, or otherwise, and called GDP, called productivity, called anything. It's completely insane. Anyway, continue.
It works in the short term. It does boost the GDP, but what then will eventually happen is the GDP per capita will take a huge impact. And especially as you bring in people too. That's another thing that they're doing here in Canada. A lot of people come in, and that does increase the GDP. It's measurable, but the GDP per capita suffers as a result. But you said that there's a chance you don't think Polyev is going to form government in Canada. I think
I would not bet on anything, Len, honestly.
Well, nothing's for sure. Yeah. But if I had to bet, I would say that the Conservatives will get the most seats in the next election. Not to say that they'll form government, but they'll get the most seats. Because a lot could happen between now and October 2025. A lot of people's minds may change. A lot of things can happen.
People's minds will change. More people will come here. There's a push.
But they can't vote. They cannot vote. Okay. You have to be a citizen of Canada to vote. Okay. And in order to get citizenship, there's requirements that take years.
I've been to a polling station and not had to show ID and not have my name on the polls. So, like, you can do it. And the question is, will it be done? I don't know. I'm not sure. I really don't know what to say about any of that. It's hard. It's hard. The fact of the matter is there's a lot riding on these elections in the States. The UK just had one, France, Norway,
Germany,
more elections this year than I think in any year of the last 50. And there's a lot of,
you mentioned them.
Yeah. There's a lot of policies that I don't want to say are unpopular, but are certainly polarizing. And you're in a polarized world now in a way that I don't think a lot of people really realize. And the ballot is secret for a reason. A lot of people will say they, I don't like this person, that person, this politician, that politician, and then vote the other way. Or Len, how many more economic situations are going to be so dire that people need another $500 every quarter from, the green energy check or whatever, whatever new drop comes here in Canada or other countries. Anything can happen. And if you think that the economic situation is going to get worse, then that the other side of that coin is that more people are going to be desperate in a way that they're not desperate now, and desperate people don't make good decisions at the ballot box.
The only problem for the Liberal Party is Trudeau is not
popular. Yeah.
And that's going to be and I don't know a way around that for him.
He doesn't seem to care. And to his credit, I think, I listen to pollsters say things like, oh, there's never been a prime minister this unpopular in, 30 years or 40 years. the pollsters I get are doing a job and are asked a question and they answer the question to the best of their ability, but they're operating in a world they've never operated in before. News cycles are shorter than ever, and anything can change week to week, month to month. There's entire teams of people now digging 24/7 into the backgrounds of every politician they need to beat, and they're not sharing those stories right away. They're waiting for the highest impact moments. The Liberal Party as a machine is a monolith. It is called the natural ruling party for a reason, and whether you agree or disagree with that designation, these guys mean business when it comes to elections. And I will not put anything past them in terms of the competence internally and the capability they will put on display as that election draws near. Because it seems to me like these guys do not give a fuck about any of the polls that are coming out. And that tells me something about what's going on inside the party machinery. Don't you think?
I don't think they have an ace up their sleeve. I think that they're just running on history. And historically, if you're a prime minister, you run again. You don't get kicked out for within. The only time I recall it, like they pushed somebody, was Chrétien, and he was pushed out, right? Like he was just a better time. Before that, I can't remember the last time that happened. Maybe Trudeau? No, not even then. Either way.
I don't know.
So he has, remember, he took the party from third party status to governing. But never happens.
He took him there. Did he take him there, or was it just their time to return to that? People were tired of Harper. They were tired. They didn't want NDP.
The perfect storm. It was the perfect, but he was the one that was there. Nobody would have guessed that they would have been from 2 years before the election. They would have been third party to forming government. Shit never happened in Canada. And they did it. But they were put in that position too. The fact that Ignatieff ran a really bad campaign. So if you're thinking that the Liberal Party, and so like that's the thing. If there was, I remember vividly the attack ads. Do you remember them?
Yeah, of course. He's just visiting.
Correct.
Yeah, so I remember that.
Still, 13 years later, it's ingrained in your head. What's going to happen next year is the same type of thing. There's going to be attack ads like crazy that's going to resonate with people, and it's going to stick in their head against the prime minister because they have the money. They're raising a ton of cash, more so than the other parties combined, and they're going to be spending it in the same type of ways they did in the past. Run negative campaigns, do it over and over again, and that shit will stick. Look, they lost Toronto St. Paul's. That shit doesn't happen.
I know.
And that's just
according to that one prognosticator, there was election interference. We can't discount that. That guy seemed to be sharp and on the ball. We don't want to discount that guy's opinion.
I like the backdrop was perfect too. We had the homeless guy that was lying down,
experiencing houselessness.
Yeah, that he was. And let's transition to another topic. Another guy that's experiencing houselessness. 37-year-old electrician in St. John's, Newfoundland, and this is a CBC story, and CBC published this, and it was interesting story about how this guy's trying to find a way to have a roof over his head because he's been priced out of the housing market over there, and he's being creative, and how he's renting office space.
Hell yeah.
And $450 a month he's renting the office space for. So he put two and two together. This is cheaper than renting a home, because if you look at the average in St. John's, it's $1,060 per month for renting a place in St. John's. In fact, in Canada, it's $2,200.
Just crossed $2,200 the first time, right? Yeah.
So he said he could afford up to $750 per month. So he was priced out around the $1,000 on average. You couldn't find anything less than $850, in fact, in St. John's. So he rented this office space for $450 a month, and he's doing it. And then they ask, how do you eat? Well, he eats a lot of potatoes and pizza pops, stuff that you could put in a microwave, and he sleeps on a futon mattress. And when it comes to showering, he says he bird baths it in a sink. This is how he makes ends meet. This is how people are doing it. St. John's is not a place you could live in a tent 12 months of the year. It's fucking cold over there, and it's not just the cold; it gets to your bones because it's that humid cold too. So what did this guy do? Renting office space. You know what? Good for him. I hope he doesn't get kicked out, because somebody could look at this and say this is against your terms of agreement and something like that, and he'll be on the street. But sad story.
Friendly tip for that guy: add $50 to your monthly costs and get a gym membership and shower, shave, all that stuff at the gym. Might not be a bad idea. Plus do a little networking. Maybe someone can help you out. You might meet somebody who's in the same boat. Maybe you guys get a house together. That'd be my advice to him. Sad story, but I love the creativity. Can't wait to hear in 2 weeks when we talk about this again that he's been tossed out because it made national news.
That's true, because the radar is on him. And
of course. Of course.
Anyways, talk about a recent survey that was done by Ipsos Reid, and Global News was reporting on it. And this survey says that 7 in 10 Canadians feel that the country is quote unquote broken. Mm-hmm. And incredibly, Canadians aged between 18 and 34, 78% of those people have the viewpoint that Canada, the country, needs to be fixed. So the older you get, the less likely that people think that it's broken and there needs to be changed, because people that are older, they probably have a hard asset like a home. They probably have savings, investments, job that pays more than they were younger. So they're able to shield themselves from inflation than, say, a younger individual. So either way, there's a lot of people, 7 in 10 feel that the country is broken. And you know what, we just talked about the election in Toronto, St. Paul's, and that's an indication that there's people that are very upset with what's going on, and they're looking for some sort of change. And they're doing this with voting, but we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah. Like I said this last week, and I thought about it a little bit after, and I really stand by it. There's like a level of sort of spiritual poverty that a lot of Canadians are experiencing for the first time. And with that spiritual poverty comes this feeling like the country's broken, because when you don't have camaraderie in your job, or camaraderie in your school, or camaraderie in your community, or, all these things that really give you purpose, and you can't start a family, and you can't, find a partner, you're going to feel like things are broken, regardless of how good everything else is. If you can't find, companionship in one way or another, everything else is going to seem more gray. That's natural. That's the natural state of affairs for humans. We're social creatures. We found that out, I think, for a lot of people, the hard way during COVID. You need to be around other people. You need to have something to build towards and a goal to achieve and all these things, meaningful life, right? And when you think about, surveys like this and other ones we've seen where people are talking about, are you ready to leave the country? Are you ready to, leave after school? Are you thinking about starting a family or not? When was the last time you had sex with a partner? All these things, they point to a certain level of, spiritual decay, let's say, in the country. We talk a lot about moral decay and ethical decay and stuff like that. But, this is a sort of spiritual decay that I think religious people would say used to be filled by the church and is no longer filled by the church because people are kind of moving away from organized religion. I would say it used to be filled by, community and partnership and romance and things like that. That's more difficult now, thanks to things like dating apps and the Pareto principle and being priced out of housing and things of this nature.
Go to a protest. You could probably find somebody like-minded.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's got, a Palestine flag or whatever at their house. They can just swing around downtown, meet some friends. But like the thing I think I would say is this is a symptom of a larger problem, and it's not necessarily a strictly economic one. It's part of it is economic, but the other part is a little deeper than that. And it's harder to fix. And I see it, unfortunately, with like some people I know. I won't say who, but there are people I know who I think are experiencing the beginnings of this, or the sort of, the build up of these feelings. Like, yeah, I don't see anybody after work. I don't like hang out with people. I don't like hang out with the opposite sex. I don't, have a community. My neighbors are kind of weird. They're low income. They're not on the same plane as me in a lot of ways. And this is a problem, right? Like I know we rag all the time here on people who are like, sort of think they're too big for their bridges. But, if you're a person like this guy who's an electrician, I think you said, living in the office, right?
37-year-old electrician.
So 37-year-old electrician, the guy is clearly a competent fella. If he buys an apartment in a low income part of town or like a rent controlled part of town, you can't kick people out. So who else is he going to see there? He's not going to see other people who are electricians like him. He's going to see people who are kind of stupid. I hate to say it, it's harsh, but it's the best way to put it. And you can't build
down on their luck, Joey.
Yeah, some of them are, but some of them are not. How much luck does it take to move out of a low income house after 15 years? Some of those places have been occupied for that long because you can't raise rents and you can't boot them out. And I hate to put that label on people, but think about what it would be like living with people who are clearly a rung below you in terms of like, competency. and confidence and communication skills. And, like that's fucking hard, man. It's hard. All this stuff, these are questions that we never had to answer before. But there is something to this idea that birds of a feather flock together. And right now they're not being allowed to. And so what do? You feel like you're alone. And when you have that feeling, it really does affect every other part of your life. And like I said, I've seen it in people that I know, and I don't like it. But again, there's no easy solution for this stuff. But to pretend it's not happening is more detrimental than to at least acknowledge it and try and solve it. And unfortunately, we're choosing the former in almost every case, it feels like at this point.
Well, maybe you got to just go with a different group of people, Joey. Look at this Global Mail article, for instance, because Ottawa is considering buying hotels to house the growing number of asylum seekers. There's a number of asylum seekers here, but I'll actually give you the numbers in a bit, and it's not what we think it is.
Okay.
Immigration Minister Mark Miller, he's been indicating that there's a possibility to buy up these hotels to deal with the high cost of dealing with the asylum seekers, because they have to block bookings of hotels right now. And so far, Canada has booked 4,000 hotel rooms for the 7,300 asylum seekers.
Wow.
And this is a way to get, savings. It'll be cost efficient. And this option of being thrown around to buy a hotel and convert it into a place to house these refugee claimants, maybe makes sense in the long run. And it's being reported that the federal government spent more than $100 million for asylum seekers, for housing for them in just Niagara Falls alone, just for using hotels over there. 100 million between February 2023 and February 2024.
God, that is not a long time. Yeah.
And that's just in Niagara Falls. So on average, refugee claimants stay 113 days at a cost of $208 per person each day, including room, meals, and security. And I took a look at the number of asylum seekers. I couldn't find it for this year or last year. 2022 is the latest one I could find. But do you know the number of people that are claiming asylum in Canada is down significantly from other peaks? 1994 was the highest that I've seen. 2007 was slightly lower than that. And we are significantly lower than
what
those
was 94? Kosovo, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah,
it was that. And I guess the very beginning of what was going on in Somalia.
Yeah. Okay.
And 2007, I'm not sure what would have been the reason for asylum seekers. Maybe it was strife in the Middle East. That may be it. I can't remember what's
I'm not sure.
Significant event.
There's always strife in the Middle East. Like, I don't know what would have been the.
But there was there was a between Afghanistan and then Iraq war.
Iraq was 2001, really. Afghanistan was 01. Iraq was 03.
Afghanistan went for a long time. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I don't know. We got to think about it anyway. Yeah.
But either way, if you look at the number of asylum seekers that are claiming refugee status in Canada now, at least 2022, it's much lower than it was years ago. So there may be a perception that there is a lot of people that are making claims for asylum here, but in reality,
I don't think
there isn't.
I don't think that perception exists. I think the government wants you to have that perception, but it's not actually what's happening. It's TFWs that are causing the problem.
Yeah, that's definitely. Not only say it's increasing the amount of the burden.
It's causing a problem. It's causing a problem. Schools, roads, infrastructure, housing. It's causing a problem.
And then in addition to that story, also the city of Ottawa is looking to buy a nunnery for around $11 million. And this is $10 million plus an extra $1 million.
Was that nunnery on MTV Cribs for that price? What the fuck does that place look like?
It's humongous. It's a huge lot of land. I saw aerial footage. It just looked lovely from above. Either way, why are they doing this? Is because the city of Ottawa is having issues with dealing with a number of newcomers, and they want to relieve the pressure on the overburdened shelters. So as a way to do this, $11 million has been earmarked to purchase this, retrofit it, and set it up for a place for as a shelter for newcomers to Canada. So there you go. That's a couple of stories.
You think a purchase and a retrofit of a nunnery can be done for $11 million?
This is just the purchase. This is simply just the purchase.
And so that's going to take what, 5 years ish, probably longer. Longer.
I don't know how long.
I'd say probably longer.
I see this place. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's probably going to take longer than that. Like, I don't know, man. It's a lot of fucking money, we talk about, people who can't afford food. you know, what, I don't know. To me, it's like, there's clearly a problem with the math here. And I'm not going to go too much further than that, but we got to start looking at both sides of the equation here, not just the, how much more money can we pour into this side, but rather how can we cut the expenses of this? We got to stop. It has to stop sometime. It has to. Unemployment and PEI I saw in terms of the TFWs up near 14% for young people. 15 to 24.
Canada's youth unemployment is 13.5%. Just for Canada.
PEI is 14 or 15. Super high. And that's the same place where you see these protests where temporary foreign workers are calling PEI residents racist, discriminatory for wanting them to leave at the end of their foreign worker thing. Something like 86% of temporary foreign workers are working in food service in Canada. That's not a place we had a shortage of workers. There's lots of 15-year-olds walking around that could take those jobs. Anyway, go ahead. Let's talk about the unemployment numbers.
So to give you the number of temporary foreign workers in Canada in fast food increased between 2018 and 2023. So in a 5-year period, it increased 4,800%.
Wow.
Cooks, almost 300%. Truck drivers, 360%. Construction workers, almost 4,000%.
Yep.
That's in a 5-year period of time. Anyways, unemployment did go up in Canada, 6.4%. And economists were expecting...
Ticked up from 6.2, right? Was that the jump? Yeah, okay.
I think that's the number. But what was concerning is that economists were expecting a 25,000 job gain, but it was the opposite. Not opposite, but it was 1,400 were lost as a result.
Weird. That's
so we
weird.
have they decreased interest rates last month.
Yep. 2 months
inflation,
ago, right? Or a month ago? I forget now. Maybe you're right.
It's the last time they met. So then inflation went up month over month. Unemployment is going up month over month. So I'm wondering what's their next move if they're going to stand pat.
They're going to cut again.
You think so?
Yeah.
So
mortgage is the only thing they care about. Home values is the only thing they care about. They'll sacrifice everything else at the altar of home values, including the dollar.
Did you see that the Citibank was saying that the Federal Reserve is going to slash 200 points over the next 8 meetings?
It's believable. I don't know. Like, if you could tell me anything, if I went into a coma and you told me rates were the same in the States a year from now, I'd believe you. And if they were half what they are, I'd believe you. Like, there's nothing. The thing about the data is that it's all made up, and there's no way to get reliable data. The street doesn't have a reliable prediction method. We've talked about this so many times. The States revises data down by 50% some quarters, the next quarter, the next month. The data is meant to support a narrative. And the narrative is based on how do we want the economy to behave at this moment in time. And I think the core concern is, at least in our case, housing. And, we've talked a lot about how in our CPI measurement, they have rents and mortgages, which I think, drives up the CPI number more frequently and with more inertia than it does in other places because it's not added to the CPI basket. And we have short-term mortgages here. 5 years is short-term, and people who did their mortgage in 2020 for 4 years or 5 years, they're starting to come due here. And the government and the bank, simply do not want those people to struggle with mortgages that are 50% higher every month in an economy where they might not have a secure job. That's really all it boils down to. And so they have to keep the cost of money low, the price of money low via the interest rate, and they're going to do it. There's no two ways about it. The question isn't, are they going to do it? The question is, should they have started this earlier? Do they think about the repercussions and side effects? Yeah, I think they probably should have started earlier, but the bank is almost never right. Many people say Macklem is the worst Bank of Canada or the worst central bank governor in the world. Of course, he did also put his son in charge or as part of the people in charge of CPPIB, which underperformed the index last year. That's a story.
Wait, did he put him in or somebody else did?
What's the fucking difference? He's the Bank of Canada governor. If his son works for CPPIB, it's because he fucking put him there. End of story. And this sort of nepotism, not seen since the 2024 Lakers and LeBron's kid. really speaks to the level of competence you see at the highest levels here. You have to look out for yourself in such a major way these days. It's just never, I don't think anyway, Len, that it's ever been this bad. And I'm not supposed to think that in my 30s, right? I'm supposed to think that in my 60s or whatever, that kids are, doing the wrong things and people are fucking things up and whatever. But I look around and I'm like, man, this sure does look pretty bad for a lot of people. And I think, boomers could catch some unfair guff for this. And people say it's like, they're protecting their wealth in an unfair way and the government's supporting them and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, maybe. But the bigger problem you have is that the sacrifice is always being made at the currency level to make sure that debt is perpetuated. This is the case everywhere. And it's the case here too. And you're going to see another round of it as the bank continues to ease. Maybe not next meeting, but they're going to do it again before the end of the year. And our economy is clearly slowing down. For us to have lost jobs, had rising unemployment, and still had significant net immigration. Now you want to talk unsustainable. That, my friend, is unsustainable.
It's time too that kids are coming out of school. They're getting jobs in fast food and services, whatever. So it's not a time when jobs are being cut, where jobs should be created.
Open. Yeah.
There's demand for doing things that are
in the natural order of things. Like I think about my time at Zellers years and years ago. The natural order of things is when you're in school, right? For those, I think it's probably still 8 months for universities. It was 8 months when I was in school. So you're there September to May. The 8 months a year in school, you work pretty sparingly. You work maybe some evenings, you might work a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you're home for the weekend, whatever, try and put some cash in your pocket. And during those months, the senior people, Maureen and Terry and Nancy, and Sue, whoever's working the cash, they're working 40 hours a week, every week without exception, sometimes more. If like your ass can't make it in because you're hungover or you partied too much on Friday night and couldn't get home on the Saturday morning bus or whatever. In the summertime, when you're home and you want the 40 hours because you got to fill your pockets, the nice ladies who've been covering for you all year, that's when they take their cottage weekends, when they take their vacation, when they see their grandkids, when they see their kids, whatever. That's the natural order of things. And so to your point, yeah, should be a lot of hours opening up in the summer for people. But this time it didn't, and you got to ask yourself, I mean, any sensible person would ask themselves what changed? And, I got a couple of ideas. You could go back and watch the earlier part of this show or other episodes we've done. I think we got a pretty good handle on exactly what changed.
That's it, Joey.
Yeah. Great.
You're going to watch today. Yeah. So it sounds like you're a big fan of Bronny then.
My God. Did you watch him the other night? House of Highlights had his highlight package, and the YouTube thumbnail is great. It's like his big face, Bronny James, first game highlights, just has 4 points. And in the highlight package, they put a bunch of missed field goals. Like everyone is onto this guy, his grift.
How much time before, do you think that he may discover he's not who he is?
It doesn't matter now because the Lakers signed him to a 4-year deal with 3 years guaranteed for $5 million.
So they're burying him on the bench. They're not going to.
He's got a roster spot. Most guys who get picked at 55 or 56, wherever he got picked, get what's called a 2-way contract, which I'm sure you're familiar with. You play a little bit in the developmental league, a little bit in the pros. If you meet a certain threshold, you automatically sunset into a 1-year contract with the team. It's usual stuff, right? It's sort of a prove it deal, and for him, he's not had to prove anything. So. Yes, we're gonna see how it goes.
That's nepotism.
Yeah, big time.
What happens when his career's finished in the NBA? It doesn't sound like from what I'm hearing, he has longevity.
I don't know. Him and his dad will start a podcast.
Once his dad retires, what's anchoring him to stay around, right?
LeBron just signed a 2-year deal with them, so he'll be there.
But he's not going to play forever, right? They're going to comes a point in time. Everybody gets.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think he's going to be done. LeBron.
Do you think there's any possibility that he may come out as something else and maybe have a chance to play in the W side of things?
He's gonna have to stay in the MNBA, I'm pretty sure, not the WNBA. Yeah, too late now. Anyway, that's it for tonight. See you guys Wednesday.
Maybe a dominant force over there. You never know.
Okay, good night. God bless you. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Don't be a cock.
Dominant force, he says. He could be a dominant force.
Are you a fan of the old school NHL 94 game on the Genesis or SNES? Why not check out my show, the NHL 94 Podcast? From tournaments and tactics to the people who make up this community. Check it out wherever you listen to podcasts or find it on YouTube.